Welcome back, family. Before the video starts, I just want to thank all my channel members for the support. Never go near this in a wave pool. I mean, I don't know what a wave pool is, but you know what I'm saying? Let's see it.
Wave pools have never made me uncomfortable, but congratulations, you just ruined it for me.
Oh, wow.
This is a creepy TikTok video that I got tagged in that shows underwater images of a barred off area. We don't really know what it is at first. That is until we get an image of an above ground area of a pool and we can see that it's a wave pool. For those that don't know, wave pools are exactly what they sound like. They're very popular in water parks. They're essentially just a pool with waves in it that are artificially made. Waves in these pools can be made from different mechanisms. If you guys want to pause and read this here, you can feel free to do so. But essentially, these bars right here prevent you from being sucked into the mechanism that causes the waves. There have been incidents in the past where people have gotten pulled into the mechanism. Fortunately, I don't think I've seen any deaths from it, but still, it would be wise to stay away from this opening if you're in a wave pool, especially if it's a vacuum wave, which is when they suck water up and push it back down, dispelling it. Also, if you have submechanophobia or fear of man-made things underwater, this video probably was your worst nightmare.
Wave pool? Chat, I don't think I've ever been in a wave pool. I mean, I've heard about them, but I've never been in one. If you guys have ever been in a wave pool, let me know your experience. I might try it this summer or something. Who knows? This movie just made history. Let's see it.
There's a brand new horror movie that just came out, and this movie just pulled off something that almost no other horror movie this entire decade has. This movie is called Weapons, and as of right now, it's got a perfect 100% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. If you don't know about Rotten Tomatoes, that is a ridiculously rare score. Only 2 horror movies in the entire past decade have done that, and one of those was called His House on Netflix. So the plot of this movie is that this entire class of kids just mysteriously vanished all in the same night, all at the exact same time, all of them except for one. The one surviving kid becomes the center of this massive mystery, and now the entire town is spiraling, trying to figure out what happened. Was it a person? Is it a cult? There are actually critics that are calling this movie the most disturbing, the most psychological, and darkest movie they've ever experienced. And if that 100% Rotten Tomato score holds, this could be the best reviewed horror movie of the entire decade. Like, hello? Let me know if you're gonna go try to watch this new movie Weapons, but a lot of people are saying that they're too scared to even try. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll make sure I give you an update after I do watch it. I give you these roundups every day, so make sure you add me and come back to me tomorrow.
She went into the woods for firewood and saw this staring back. Let's see what she saw, chat.
Tell me what you would do if you were this lady. Do you see how spooked she looked? I'm about to show you what it is that she's seen, y'all, because this world is opening up to some new creatures. This lady is at home visiting family in Vermont, and it's her turn to go up and stock up the wood because it's cold out there. They want to be warm, y'all. When she looks up and she looks out into the trees, y'all, she sees this unbelievable sight. You won't believe it, y'all.
Okay,
Listen,
no
check
fucking
this out.
joke. I'm loading up wood.
Look how scared she is.
I look up, and this is what I see. Wait for it.
Look at this. Look in the shadow, y'all. Look at this.
What is that?
Look at this.
Why does it look like a goddamn Yeti?
It looks like a Yeti.
It does.
Because it's real tall.
Look how big
Not
that
down with it.
Look at this.
I
What?
think it's time to go back inside now.
I mean, look at this thing. Y'all seen how scared she was. She went back inside so fast, she didn't come back outside until the next morning, and she said this thing was gone. And that's when I would have been too. I would have never returned back to Vermont to see my family ever again, y'all. This is crazy. I believe we're gonna be seeing some old new creatures coming into our world, y'all. Y'all ready for this shift? Let me know down in the comments what you would have done. The shift is here, y'all. Y'all see it. Let's get it. Peace in.
I'm not down with it. Alright. I think it's time to go back inside now.
Okay, with this freak weather event that we're about to experience, people are talking about, and news articles are talking about, exploding trees. Yeah. And this is a phenomenon that happens when extreme cold meets precipitation and this freaking ice storm, which we had this last year. I have pictures and videos on my phone of 1/2 inch of ice on all kinds of stuff in my yard, on my house, on my truck, everything. And of course, you can imagine a power line with 1/2 inch of ice across 500 meters, or 500 feet. Someone was saying that's like several thousand pounds of ice. And we may see like a shocking disruption to the energy supply. Listen to this for a second.
Wait for it. Listen. Trees are just falling left and right. Sounds like a war zone out here.
The Weather Network is explaining that extreme cold prompts exploding tree warnings. And this guy says, trees can explode in extreme cold. Yes, it sounds like a shot in the dark at 2 a.m. No, the forest is not haunted. Oak, maple, and fruit trees with high moisture are most vulnerable to exploding. Extreme cold can also cause cryoseismic booms or frost quakes due to ground expansion. And this is at the same time that half the Walmarts and Home Depots and whatnot are freaking empty, the shelves. Have you seen the videos that are trending all over the place? Now, some will say this is fear-mongering, but I highly suggest that you have something in your dwelling to be able to endure a multi-day grid down scenario. It's not that crazy. A couple of cans of freaking tuna, a couple of candles, some blankets to put under your doors and on the windows and whatnot to keep the heat in. Like, this is not, I'm not fear-mongering, man. This is just something that you should have, because how dependent do we want to be on the system? And when 1 million people are calling 911, do you want to be the millionth and oneth? If that's a word, come on. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and follow for more. And keep your head on a swivel with this thing.
You know what I'm saying? He made some good points about people being dependent on the system, and if anything goes wrong, do you really want to be the 1 millionth and one person calling 911? Because they're not going to be able to help you, buddy.
In 2008, Joshua Maddux was an 18-year-old guy living in a small city in Colorado. He was known for having a very carefree attitude. He was kind of a free spirit. On May 8th, he told his sister Kate that he was going for a walk as he left the house. Josh loved being out in nature and regularly went out walking around the woods by himself. But that night, when he didn't come back, that was out of the ordinary, and the family was pretty concerned. By the next day, when he hadn't shown up and they couldn't get in touch with him and they called around and no one knew where he was, they would go to the police and file a missing person report. So the police launched this massive search. As days turned into weeks, turned into months, and no one's heard from him, no one knows what happened to him, hope was fading that they were going to find him alive. In fact, hope was fading that they were even going to find his body. 7 years after Josh went missing, a startling discovery was made. A builder named Chuck Murphy had this little tiny cabin he owned in the middle of the woods, about a mile away from where Josh's family home was in Colorado. The cabin had fallen into disrepair. Now the land it was on was much more valuable than the cabin itself. So the decision was made to demolish the cabin and sell the land. And so he brings out a demolition crew. They start knocking down walls, and when they crack open the chimney, they see a body crammed in the fetal position with its legs over its head. Chuck calls the police, who come over, and they're able to identify this body as being that of Josh Maddux. The cabin had been consistently overlooked during the different searches for Josh because it just didn't look like a place anybody would go. It was like this broken down, caving in pile of wood. No one thought to actually go check it out. Chuck wounds. Initially, authorities said this death.
The CIA ran high-altitude nuclear tests where they basically launched ballistic missiles at the Van Allen radiation belt, and they discovered a new weapon called EMP, which is electromagnetic pulses that are strong enough to wipe out an entire electronic grid. So all electronics go out instantly, all tech communications, everything. So that obviously led to the Soviet Union doing the same, because you gotta match, your enemy. But people are speculating that they were just trying to burst the firmament because they named the project Fishbowl. I mean, you could have named it anything, honestly. But anyways, this is my driver, and you give the people things to be curious about, and then you name it something like that, and you're like, yeah, that is a little weird, a little fishy. Here we go.
God created us, then who created God?
When people say, like, God created everything, and you say, what created God? They say, oh, that's illogical because God always was and always will be. But then when you bring up the argument that the universe could have always existed, the counter argument is, well, that makes no sense. Something had to have created it. But then when they say, okay, well, then what created it? God. Well, what created God? God always was and always will be. But that's not illogical, but the fact that the universe could have always created is illogical. To say a creator created the universe is a logical train of thought, right? Because we have been created by things before us. So it just follows suit that something that has been created has something that created it, something that created it. And at some point there has to be an end in sight, right? So you have to always say the universe always was or will be, or you have to say God always was or will be. Because at some point there had to be a definitive starting point in your mind from like or no starting point, rather. Like God had no According to the universe had no starting point. In the Bible, it says that God is the Omega, the Alpha, and the beginning and the end. God is the Alpha and the Omega. Okay? You can say God is the beginning and the end, but by that logic, that also doesn't follow human logic. Similarly to the universe always being in existence.
I mean, I feel like when it comes to anything with God or the universe, it just goes beyond the human logic. Like, I don't think you can really put human logic into anything that revolves around the universe or God or extraterrestrial beings, because, you know what I'm saying, we're two different species. One is on a different dimension, one's on a different plane, and we're in the third dimension, buddy. So basically, what goes for us wouldn't really go for them, you know what I'm saying? So using human logic to stuff like that, it's gonna be a hard time trying to like really calculate what's going pretty bad, dude.
Creepy real photos that keep me up at night, part 72. This photo was posted to Reddit with the caption, "My nephew is getting married this weekend in New Orleans. The party went on a ghost tour last night. One stop was the notoriously haunted Lalaurie Mansion. My niece's boyfriend snapped this pic during the tour. What do you see on the upper balcony?" Follow for more creepy real photos.
Walt Disney World tragedy. In August 1980, an 11-year-old boy from Long Island traveled to Florida with his family. They were going to Walt Disney World. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime. Disney World had only been open for 9 years. It was still new and magical. The family stayed at Fort Wilderness Resort and Campground, one of Disney's on-property accommodations. Fort Wilderness sat on the shores of Bay Lake, a natural body of water that Disney had incorporated into the resort. In 1976, Disney opened its first water park there called River Country. River Country was designed to look like an old-fashioned swimming hole. Sandy beaches, rope swings, water slides built into artificial rock formations. The park used water from Bay Lake itself. A dam separated a section of the lake to create the swimming area. The water was filtered before entering the park, but it remained natural lake water. August in Central Florida meant temperatures in the 90s Fahrenheit. The boy spent the day swimming and going down slides. At some point during his visit, water went up his nose. This happens to swimmers constantly. A wave hits wrong. You come up from underwater at a bad angle. Water shoots up your nasal passages. It burns for a moment, then it passes. Everyone who swims has experienced it.
True.
But this time, something microscopic entered the boy's nasal passages along with the lake water. A single-celled organism, an amoeba called Naegleria fowleri. This amoeba lives in warm freshwater, lakes, rivers, hot springs, ponds. It thrives in water temperatures above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. During hot summer months, it becomes more active and more concentrated. Thousands of people swim in waters containing this amoeba every year. Usually, nothing happens. But when water containing it goes up someone's nose with enough force, the amoeba can travel through the nasal passages and cross into the brain.
What?
There it feeds on brain tissue. The infection is called primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, or PAM. The boy left River Country feeling fine. Within a few days, symptoms began. Severe headache, high fever, stiff neck, nausea and vomiting, confusion and disorientation. His parents knew something was seriously wrong. They rushed him to a hospital. Doctors ran tests. The infection progressed rapidly. Once symptoms of PAM appear, the disease moves fast. The boy's condition deteriorated so quickly. His brain was swelling. The amoeba was destroying tissue. Eventually, he died in August 1980.
Wow. Dude, that just unlocked like a new fear. I did not know that there was a brain-eating bacteria in just water in general. That is crazy. Strange clouds before the storm. Huge line in the clouds right before the winter storm tomorrow, 1/23/26. I mean, the storm was already passed, but you know what I'm saying? Let's take a look at the video regardless.
Okay, for some reason my feed is full of videos of strange looking clouds and things in the sky ahead of the storm. Here we have I'm sure they would call it a shelf cloud, or some sort of, I think they renamed a bunch of new clouds in like 2012. But it is very interesting. The wind is blowing in such a direction that it, and then of course that's just a plane, that's just ice crystals, of course, condensation and whatnot. But this storm is set to be groundbreaking. Now look at this. This morning after I stoked the fire, we have a massive plume. It was minus 35. Like, this is a frigid day. Yes, we get minus 30 sometimes, but like, it's usually only a couple days out of the winter. Apparently the polar vortex, the eye of that storm, is above our heads right now. And it is freezing, but the Gulf air is hitting that in the middle of the States, which is going to create this precipitation. Hopefully it is completely chill and everyone's totally fine, and maybe the wind blows it away and it's all good. But there's a reason people are rationally concerned about this. And anyone saying, oh, I'm in Canada, it's fine, it's just a bit cold. We're talking about the deep south that's going to get hit with ice.
I'm talking this kind of ice, man. Like whatever amount of millimeters this is, it's heavy. The whole ground was coated in it. There's obviously going to be people where it's just a bit snowy or just a bit rainy, but in the middle, when it's freezing rain. And do you guys in the South have trucks that have salt sprayers? Like that's what we got in Canada, of course. They salt the roads to melt the ice so that you can drive on them. But there's infrastructure for that here, not there. So this is why people are concerned, like what happened in Texas the other day, last couple of years ago, where they had the snowstorm.
So this is a real life video that a supporter sent of La Llorona. Yes. So the email thread that says, my parents recently traveled to Mexico for the holidays. They went driving to Zacatecas, right in the middle of Mexico, kind of north. We're from a rancho, a small village basically. And ever since my parents were young, they always heard La Llorona, but never actually caught it on camera. And when they do hear La Llorona, they know she's gonna start crying because all the dogs start barking. It's easy to say someone's doing it as a joke, but it's every other day at random times, even at 3 a.m. or 6 a.m. or on a random day at 2 p.m. La Llorona is my mom's biggest fear. She once was in Mexico pregnant with my sister, and my dad was in the US working. My mom was home alone one night and heard La Llorona crying, and she remembered how she shakes and hid under her blanket. The crazy part is, right when La Llorona started crying, she got contractions more than usual that night. Below is a video from footage my parents caught. They were burning old bushes, trash in our backyard, and you can hear it clearly. You just need to turn up the volume. Okay.
Ahí viene ya la pinche Llorona, ya mandó un mensaje, dice que ya nadie lata. Unos cuantos minutos más y se va a pasar por aquí, viene a toda madre. Ya empezaron los perros a ladrar, los coyotes a maullar y la Rita a temblar.
I have a theory. What if La Llorona is a physical manifestation of all the grief that happens in Mexico? Because there's this thing now, there's a lot of comments are saying, it's like a new saying, La Llorona stopped crying when she realized that she's not the only one looking for her kids. So I feel like now it's a physical manifestation of all the parents that are going through some shit like that. Yeah.
Hey man, that's a pretty interesting theory.
This mom left her autistic daughter locked in a closet for months to in there.
Wow.
What? It was this woman named Alondra Hobbs, and she was 29 years old, also was a single mom. So she had a 7-year-old autistic daughter. They were living together in Atlanta. She started at this time getting super overwhelmed from taking care of her daughter because her daughter had a lot of needs from, you know, being autistic, and she would also have like seizures and other things that would pretty much just affect this girl a lot. So the mom had to constantly watch her and take care of her and just 24/7. Something snapped in her one day, and in 2023 she took her daughter, strapped her to her stroller, like locked her in there, and rolled the stroller into the closet and closed it. The mom packs all of her bags, everything in the apartment, and moves out.
What?
Left her daughter in the apartment the whole time, bro.
That's
then
crazy.
4 months go by.
There's no one living there no more.
Nobody's living there no more. A neighbor in the area ended up smelling something super strong coming from this lady's old apartment. That dude ends up finding a way, I think, to get in because he was like, what is even in there?
He probably called like the landlord or whatever.
Yeah, so eventually he gets in there, and when they first walk in, they see a hanging out of the closet. Like she was trying to escape. She was next level, and pretty much it like mummified her in there. Police eventually get there. They find this little girl's body, and
did they find?
Police eventually
her, right?
They ended up finding her literally the same year. They got her, and they gave her life in prison.
Damn, bro. Rest in peace to that little girl, bro.
Abandoned her kid.
That sucks so much.
That's RP Olivia Jordan, man. This shit was so sad when I heard about it. I was like, wow.
That's crazy, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you, bro. Not everyone is prepared for parenthood. And if you're not prepared for parenthood, cool. But, like, at least give your child to an orphanage. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't just leave her like that.
A Russian 747 had a runway excursion yesterday after one of its engines failed during takeoff. Thankfully, we have a video here of the incident. The Rossiya 747's engine number 1, the furthest from the fuselage on the left side, had a compressor surge during the takeoff roll, which resulted in asymmetric thrust and a yaw to the left. This put the 747 into the snowbank, but not completely off of the runway, and thankfully no one was injured.
Doing this can permanently hurt the Kari.
Ho ho ho! Gotta be honest with you guys, I've never seen this creature alive and in the wild like this. It's kind of throwing me off because I've only ever seen the shell. This is another TikTok video that I got tagged in that shows a person touching sea life, something you generally shouldn't do, and they themselves acknowledge. And after touching this outer layer here, this fleshy part peels back. What this person is touching is something that's easily recognizable by its shell, not so much when it's alive, a cowrie. Cowrie are a type of sea snail that live in warm tropical areas. They're quite large. They reside inside of the shell, of course. They also have a fleshy part of their body called the mantle that can actually wrap around the shell on the outside that keeps it nice and polished. Technically, you are able to safely handle a cowrie, but it's really not recommended because your oils and germs can damage the cowrie itself and cause the shell to become tarnished. So again, the number one lesson here, just don't really touch sea life. The only time where it's mostly okay is if the cowrie is already dead and it's just a shell that's left behind. Then it's a cool souvenir.
Michael Packard might be the unluckiest person alive. In 2001, when Michael was 38 years old, he was on a flight over Costa Rica when the small plane he was on crashed. The pilot, co-pilot, and a passenger were all killed on impact, but Michael and the 4 other passengers, they survived the crash. That plane crash would not be the last time that Michael defied the odds and did something totally unbelievable. Over the next couple of decades, Michael, who was a commercial diver by trade, would survive not 1, but 2 significant encounters with great white sharks off the coast of California. Some of Michael's friends would not be so lucky. Michael would get lost at sea, like treading out in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight for hours lost. But miraculously, a boat would find him and save him again. And Michael would discover the body of a long-time missing person off the coast of Massachusetts. But of all the improbable exploits of Michael's life, none is more unbelievable than what happened to him in 2021, which experts are saying he had about a 1 in 1 trillion chance of experiencing. On the morning of June 11th, 2021, Michael hopped in a boat with his longtime diving partner, Josiah. They took off and headed for the open waters right off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where they planned to do some lobster diving. Once they reached this spot right off the coast, Michael put on all of his scuba diving equipment and hopped in the water. And so Josiah remembers watching Michael, who was in the water, and then all of a sudden this eruption of white water came rushing up to the surface right where Michael had gone down below. And so right away, Josiah leaned out over the edge of the boat to see if he could look down and see his friend, but he didn't see Michael anywhere. Instead, he saw something massive moving around underneath them. After Michael had broken the surface on this final dive down to get more lobsters, he felt something smash into him from behind that felt like a truck hitting him, and then everything around him went totally pitch black. And as he's fumbling around, his hands are making contact with what feels like walls all around him. He was inside of an enclosed space, and that's when it dawned on him. He had been swallowed by a whale. For nearly 45 seconds, Michael was trapped inside the closed mouth of a humpback whale. Despite their enormous size, they can be up to 60 feet long and weigh up to 70,000 pounds. They only eat small fish. So when this particular whale realized Michael was not a tiny fish, it began violently swinging its head side to side to try to dislodge Michael, and that caused that eruption of white water to go to the surface that Josiah saw. And after a few good shakes, Michael was spat out of this whale's mouth. After Josiah brought Michael back to shore and called the authorities, Michael was rushed to a hospital where he was evaluated, and unbelievably, he suffered really no injuries. And so later that day, he was discharged. Despite how terrifying this incident sounds, Michael was incredibly casual in all of his interviews about this. And he would tell the incredulous reporters who just could not believe this guy was real that as soon as he was better, he was getting back in the water and going lobster diving.
Hey man, that's actually a good story. Like if I was him, I'd write a book or something. Like, You know what I'm saying? That's crazy.
I knew Mark Zuckerberg was a weird dude, but I did not know it was like this. The man spent 10 years wearing the same exact gray shirt every single day just to reduce the number of choices he had to make. Each shirt cost $350 and got him voted as the worst dressed man on earth. When Facebook was still small, he paid this guy 5 million shares just to paint this wall in his office, and today that stock is worth about $2 billion.
Damn.
He drives a $9,000 car to stay humble, yet his home is controlled by an AI called Jarvis that talks with Morgan Freeman's voice.
Jarvis knows when to make me breakfast.
Your toast is ready.
Mark once noticed a paparazzi following him to the beach, so he covered his face in sunscreen to hide from cameras. Obviously, it didn't work. He also once custom made his wife the only Porsche minivan in the world for her birthday and spent $350,000 on a giant 7-fat statue of her. And if that was not strange enough, he once challenged himself to only eat meat from animals he personally hunted for an entire year, saying it helped him feel more connected to nature. For a man worth billions, Mark Zuckerberg proves that being rich does not mean being normal.
I would argue the opposite. We talked in previous videos about how sometimes these millionaires and billionaires live life in creative mode where, like, you know what I'm saying, they have so much money where they just feel like they just get bored. They just get bored and they want to do something else. For example, for Mark Zuckerberg, that's going to hunt some chicken on a random Saturday, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe wearing the same shirt 100 times in a year. I don't know. Whatever floats his boat.
How Gordon Ramsay almost died in Brazil?
Nah.
You didn't hear about
nah.
this? Fam, so he was shooting like a whole TV series where it's like, oh, they go out on the boats in different places and they catch fish. So it's just about like marine life, right? So he goes to Brazil, and I don't know why, but there's a practice in Brazil where it's like he saw some people cutting off the fins of sharks and just doing stuff with the fins and just throwing the shark back. So they were practically just killing sharks, right?
Yeah.
So while Gordon Ramsay was filming this, he's like, nah, this isn't right. They're just killing animals.
It's for shark fin soup, I think.
Yeah,
right?
something like that. So he gets mad and stuff like that, and like they're still recording. So I think the day after, somebody mentioned to a gang member in Brazil that he's trying to stop all the fin stuff. So the gang members are like, oh, yo, you have to stop filming, you can't get out, or you got to get out. Gordon Ramsay's like, nah, I'm not. This is for a TV series. I'm supposed to be here. They're like, okay, you're not leaving, bet. The gang member gets a gasoline tank, starts pouring.
Gordon Ramsay did this?
Yes, on Gordon Ramsay.
What the frick?
And all his crew members, and threatens to light them on fire.
The Philadelphia experiment cover-up. Let's see it, chat.
On October 28, 1943, the U.S. Navy conducted an experiment on the USS Eldridge that was docked in Philadelphia, but it went terribly wrong. Now, this comes from a couple of witnesses that said that they were there, but according to their story, one of the witnesses was on a ship next to the USS Eldridge, which was parked in Philadelphia, and on the USS Eldridge, they had these special generators that the Navy had developed that were supposed to help make battleships more invisible to enemy radars. They mean actually invisible. Now, I know you're probably thinking that sounds crazy, like this is obviously fake, but it gets weird at the end, and Albert Einstein and Tesla are also involved with this. So Albert Einstein legitimately had a theory called the unified field theory, and they think that the Philadelphia experiment was the first attempt at kind of harnessing it. Without getting too technical, essentially Einstein believed that there was a perfect math equation for the universe, and if you figured it out, you could essentially manipulate time and other things. So on October 28, 1943, when the US Navy flipped on those generators on the USS Eldridge, things went wrong. According to the witness who was on the ship next to it, the whole ship was enveloped by this weird green fog to the point where you couldn't even see the ship, and then when the fog went away, the ship was gone, like it was invisible, but it looked like there was still the imprint in the water. Then apparently 20 minutes later, it ends up in Norfolk, Virginia, which is like 200 miles away. And then it apparently disappeared and then ended up back in Philadelphia where it originally started from. But according to the witness, he said when the ship finally reappeared, all he could hear were screams. He said that there were sailors that were infused into the metal of the ship. A few of them like just burst into flame. And most of the rest that survived were just mad as hatters, as he put it. And this all took place in the middle of the day. Now, many people can be led to believe that that guy's crazy, and he was a science fiction writer as well. But apparently there was also a witness that was a survivor that was on board that day.
That's crazy, chat. So you really think they had like a haunted like US military ship? I mean, I wouldn't doubt that if I'm being honest.